The ship was small. Ambassador Taman Cho stood at the window and looked at the massive station floating in space. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The Galactic Council station stretched across thousands of kilometers, shining like a metal moon against the black sky. Taman took a deep breath. This was the most important day in human history. The year was 2247. Humanity had finally done it. They had built ships that could travel faster than light. They had reached the stars. And they had found that they were not alone. 12 ancient species ruled the galaxy. They called themselves the Galactic Council. They had existed for over 50,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched countless species destroy themselves. And now, they would decide if humanity was worthy of joining them. Taman walked through the great halls of the station. Alien beings of all shapes moved around him. Some had scales. Some had wings. Some floated in the air without legs. They all looked at him with the same expression. Curiosity mixed with something else. Something that looked like pity. The council chamber was a circular room with 12 massive seats arranged in a ring. Each seat held a representative of an ancient species. At the center sat High Arbiter Velith. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and eyes that had seen 10,000 years pass. He looked down at Taman like a man looking at an insect. "You are the human," Velith said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You wish to join the council?" Taman bowed respectfully. "Yes, High Arbiter. Humanity seeks friendship and partnership with the great species of the galaxy. We offer our creativity, our determination, and our hope for a peaceful future." Silence filled the room. Then, one of the counselors laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. "Creativity?" The counselor said. "You have existed for barely 200,000 years. Your civilization is only 10,000 years old. You still fight wars among yourselves. You pollute your own world. You cannot even agree on simple matters of governance." Another counselor spoke. "Your species lives for less than a century. What can such short-lived creatures possibly offer us? By the time you learn anything useful, you die." Taman felt his face grow hot, but he kept his voice calm. "We learn fast because we must. Our short lives make every moment precious. We do not waste time." Velith raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. He studied Taman for a long moment. "The council has already decided," Velith said. "Humanity is classified as a quarantine species. You are too primitive, too violent, too unstable. All contact between council species and humans is forbidden from this moment forward." Taman felt the words hit him like physical blows. "High Arbiter, please. There is a threat approaching our space. The Dominion. We have detected their scouts near our borders. We need help. We need protection. We need technology to defend ourselves." Velith's expression did not change. "The Dominion is not our concern in that region of space. And neither are you. You would let billions of innocent people die?" Taman asked. His voice cracked with emotion. "Species die every day across the galaxy," Velith replied. "It is the natural order. The strong survive. The weak perish. If humanity cannot protect itself, then humanity was never meant to exist." Taman stood in shock. He had prepared for rejection. He had prepared for conditions and demands. He had not prepared for complete abandonment. "This meeting is over," Velith announced. "Remove the human from the station." Guards moved toward Taman, but before they reached him, a voice spoke from one of the council seats. A moment. Everyone turned. Counselor Thyra rose from her seat. She was ancient even by council standards. Her species had been among the first to achieve space travel. Her body was frail, but her eyes burned with fierce intelligence. "I wish to speak with the human," Thyra said, "privately. Before he leaves?" Velith frowned but nodded. "You have 10 minutes." Thyra led Taman to a small room off the main chamber. She moved slowly, but with purpose. When the door closed behind them, she turned to face him. "You are angry," she said. "You feel betrayed, should I not?" Taman replied. "We came in peace." We asked for help, and we were treated like animals. Thyra nodded slowly. The council has grown arrogant. They have forgotten what it means to struggle. They have forgotten what young species can become. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small data chip. Take this. Tammin looked at the chip. What is it? Knowledge, Thyra said. Technology that the council has forbidden. Principles they have hidden for millennia because they fear what others might do with them. She pressed the chip into his hand. Survive the next century. Evolve. They will regret this arrogance. Before Tammin could respond, the door opened. Guards stood waiting. Your time is up, one of them said. Tammin slipped the chip into his pocket. He looked at Thyra one last time. She nodded slightly, and something passed between them. An understanding. A promise. 3 days later, Tammin's ship returned to Earth. 1 week after that, the Council activated a dimensional barrier around human space. It was a wall of energy that nothing could pass through. No ships, no signals, no hope. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Humanity was alone, trapped, forgotten. World leaders gathered in the United Earth Assembly. Fear and despair filled the room. But one man stood calm amidst the chaos. Admiral Jinho Park walked to the podium. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and steady eyes that had seen war and peace. They have sealed us away, Jinho said. His voice was quiet but carried to every corner of the room. They have declared us unworthy. They have left us to face the darkness alone. He paused and looked at the faces before him. But I say they have given us a gift. The gift of no expectations. No one is watching. No one is waiting. No one believes we will survive. A small smile crossed his face. Let us prove them wrong. Let us use this time. Let us build. Let us grow. Let us become something they never imagined possible. The room was silent. Then, slowly, people began to stand, one by one, until everyone was on their feet. Outside, the barrier shimmered in space. Inside, humanity began its long journey into the unknown. They would not be forgotten forever. 20 years passed inside the barrier. Humanity spread to new worlds. They built colonies on distant planets. They raised families under alien suns. They tried to forget that they were prisoners in their own corner of space. Then the Dominion. Cam Unicong was 17 years old when the first attack happened. She lived on Kepler Station, a mining colony on the edge of human space. It was a quiet place. A safe place. Until the sky turned red with enemy fire, the Dominion ships came through a crack in the barrier. They were massive and dark, covered in weapons that glowed with terrible energy. They did not send warnings. They did not make demands. They simply began killing. Yuna ran through the burning corridors of the station. Screams echoed around her. Bodies lay on the ground. She saw her mother fall. She saw her father try to fight with nothing but his hands. She saw him die. A rescue ship found her hiding in a storage room 3 days later. She was the only survivor from her section, one of only 200 survivors from a station of 50,000. That night, as the rescue ship carried her away from the ruins, Yuna made a promise. She would never be helpless again. She would never run again. She would learn to fight. And one day, she would make the Dominion pay for every life they had taken. The war lasted 30 years. In the beginning, humanity lost. They lost badly. 3 colony worlds fell in the first month. 10 more fell in the first year. The Dominion had better weapons, better ships, more soldiers than humanity could count. But humans did something the Dominion did not expect. They learned every battle taught them something new. Every defeat showed them a weakness to fix. Every death fueled their determination to survive. They called it the doctrine of total adaptation. Nothing was wasted. Every loss became a lesson. Dr. Minho Bay was a young scientist when the war began. He spent years studying the data chip that Counselor Thyra had given to Ambassador Tammin. The knowledge inside was incredible. It contained principles of physics and engineering that human scientists had never imagined. technology that the Council had hidden because they feared it. Minho did not just copy this technology. He improved it. He combined it with human innovation. He created things that had never existed before. Nano armor that could heal itself. Weapons that could phase through enemy shields. Engines that moved faster than anything the Dominion had ever seen. Ships that seemed to think for themselves. Commander Hannah Lim rose through the ranks during these dark years. She was small and quiet, but her mind was sharp as a blade. She pioneered new ways of fighting. Guerrilla tactics that confused the enemy. Ambushes that struck from nowhere and vanished before the Dominion could respond. She taught her soldiers to be ghosts. Cannot match their numbers, Hannah told her troops. So we will not try. We will be everywhere and nowhere. We will be the shadow they cannot catch. We will be the fear they cannot escape. Year by year, the tide began to turn. The Dominion expected humanity to break. They expected surrender. They expected the same pattern they had seen with 100 other species. But humanity refused to follow the pattern. Unikong became a pilot, then a captain. She flew missions that others called suicide. She always came back. Her ship was called the Lucky Ghost because it survived when nothing else did. In the 28th year of the war, Una led a strike force against a Dominion command ship. It was 3 times the size of her largest vessel. It carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. She destroyed it in 40 minutes. Warlord Kryn, the commander of the Dominion invasion, received the news in his throne room. He had conquered a dozen species. He had never lost a campaign. But the reports from human space troubled him. They do not break, his advisor said. Every time we push them down, they rise again. Stronger than before, Kryn studied the images of burned Dominion ships. Human ships that moved in impossible ways. Weapons that should not exist. Withdraw, he ordered. His advisor stared at him in shock. Warlord, these creatures do not break, Kryn repeated. They become sharper. We will return when we are stronger. When we have more forces. When we can crush them completely. The Dominion fleet retreated beyond the barrier. Humanity had won. But there was no celebration. Too many had died. Too many worlds lay in ruins. Admiral Jinho Park, now old but still strong, stood before the survivors. We have won a battle, he said. Not the war. They will return. And when they do, we must be ready. For 100 more years, humanity built in silence. They colonized 200 worlds inside the barrier. They raised their population to 40 billion. They constructed shipyards that could produce 1,000 vessels in a single year. They trained soldiers, scientists, engineers, and leaders. Dr. Minho Bay. His life extended by new technology continued his work. He developed weapons that the galaxy had never seen, ships that could heal their wounds, armor that adapted to any attack, artificial intelligence that merged with human minds to create something greater than either alone. Admiral Jinho Park, kept alive by the same technology, oversaw everything. He called it Project Return. The goal was simple. When the barrier fell, humanity would not be helpless victims. They would be a force that the galaxy could not ignore. Captain Unikong trained the fleet. She was no longer young, but she was still sharp. She had never forgotten Kepler's station. She had never forgotten her promise. Commander Hannah Lim built the special forces. Soldiers who could fight in any environment, who could strike any target, who could do the impossible and make it look easy. The galaxy outside had forgotten about humanity. The Council erased them from their records. Young aliens grew up never knowing that humans existed. But inside the barrier, humanity remembered everything. They sealed us away because they thought we were nothing, Jinho said during his final address to the fleet. They left us to die because they believed we were weak. They were wrong. We have become something new, something powerful, something they never imagined. He looked at the vast fleet spread across space. 10,000 warships, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever built. Soon the barrier will fall, Jinho continued. Not because someone attacks it, because we have learned to control it. We will step back into the galaxy, and we will show them what humanity has become. In the silence of space, the fleet waited. 150 years after being abandoned, humanity was ready to return. Dr. Minho Bay stood in the control room of the research station. Screens surrounded him, showing complex equations and energy readings. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. After decades of work, the moment had finally arrived. "The calculations are complete," Minho said quietly. "We can bring down the barrier whenever we choose." Admiral Jinho Park stood beside him. The admiral was ancient now, over 200 years old, kept alive by technology that would have seemed like magic to his ancestors. But his eyes were still sharp. His mind was still clear. "How long will it take?" Ginho asked. "Seconds," Minho replied. "The barrier will dissolve across 1,000 light years simultaneously. Every sensor in the galaxy will detect it." Jinho nodded slowly. He had waited 150 years for this moment. Generations had lived and died inside the barrier. Children had been born who had never seen the stars beyond their small corner of space. Now, everything would change. "Do it," Jinho ordered. Pressed a single button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screens lit up with brilliant light. Across human space, the shimmering wall of energy that had trapped them for so long began to fade. It flickered like a dying flame. Then it was gone. The barrier had fallen. In the council station, alarms began to sound. Technicians rushed to their screens, trying to understand what was happening. High Arbiter Velith was pulled from his sleep by urgent messages. "What is it?" he demanded as he entered the command center. "The dimensional barrier around the quarantine zone," a technician stammered. "It has collapsed." Velith frowned. "Collapsed? That is impossible. Those barriers are permanent. Nothing can break them." "It did not break from outside," the technician said, his voice shaking. "It dissolved from within." Velith stared at the screen. The quarantine zone. He had to search his memory to even remember what was there. Then it came to him. The humans. That primitive species they had sealed away 150 years ago. He had not thought about them since. "Send a patrol," Velith ordered. "Find out what happened to them." 3 council patrol ships entered former human space. They expected to find ruins, dead worlds, perhaps a few scattered survivors living in primitive conditions. What they found was something else entirely. The patrol leader was named Koroth. He had served the council for 300 years. He had seen many things, but he had never seen anything like the ship that appeared before him. It was sleek and beautiful, with curves that seemed to flow like water. It was larger than his entire patrol combined, and it moved with a grace that should have been impossible for something so massive. "Unknown vessel," Koroth transmitted, his voice uncertain. "Identify yourself." The response came immediately. A human face appeared on his screen. It was a woman with dark hair and steady eyes. She wore a uniform he did not recognize. "I am Captain Unikong of the United Earth Expeditionary Fleet," she said. Her voice was calm and confident. "Flagship Eternal Dawn, we come in peace. But we are no longer asking for permission." Koroth stared at her in confusion. "You are human? But that is impossible. Your species was classified as primitive. You could not have survived, let alone built ships like this." Una smiled slightly. It was not a friendly smile. "The council made many assumptions about us. Most of them were wrong." Koroth quickly transmitted his findings back to the council station. The response was immediate chaos. High Arbiter Velith read the reports with growing disbelief. Humans had not just survived, they had multiplied. They had advanced. Intelligence suggested that human technology now matched or exceeded council standard. "This must be an error," Velith declared. "They were primitives. 150 years cannot change that." But the evidence kept coming. Human ships appearing across the former quarantine zone. Human signals broadcasting on frequencies the council had never seen. Human technology that did not match anything in the council's databases. Ambassador Shto arrived at the council station 3 weeks later. He was the grandson of Taemin Cho, the first human ambassador who had been rejected and sent away in shame. Doyen carried himself differently than his grandfather had. He walked with the confidence of someone who had nothing to prove. The council chamber was the same as it had been 150 years ago. 12 seats arranged in a ring. Velith at the center. But this time, the atmosphere was different. This time, the council members looked at the human with uncertainty instead of contempt. "You have returned," Velith said. His voice was carefully neutral. Doyen replied. "And we bring a message from the United Earth Fleet." He activated a holographic display. Images filled the chamber. 200 colony worlds, each one thriving with life. 40 billion human beings. Cities that stretched across continents, and ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships, each one more advanced than anything the Council had ever built. "We do not seek membership in your council," Doyen announced. "We do not need your protection. We do not want your approval." He paused and looked directly at Veloth. "We seek acknowledgement. Recognition that humanity exists, that we are a power in this galaxy, and we will have it." Silence filled the chamber. The counselors looked at each other in shock. In her seat, Counselor Thyra watched everything with quiet satisfaction. She was the only one who did not seem surprised. She had known this day would come. She had helped make it possible. After the meeting, Thyra found Dayun alone in a corridor. "Your grandfather was a brave man," she said. "He carried hope when there was none. He spoke of you often. He said you were the only one who saw us as we could become. I saw potential." Thyra replied, "Your species proved me right." She looked at him carefully. "The galaxy is more dangerous now than it was when your people were sealed away. The Dominion has grown powerful. They have conquered half the space beyond council borders. Soon, they will turn their attention here." "We know," Doyen said. "We have been watching, waiting, and when that day comes?" Thyra asked. "What will humanity do?" Doyen was quiet for a moment. "We have not decided yet. The council abandoned us to die. Many believe we owe them nothing." Ada nodded slowly. "That is fair. But consider this. The council was wrong to abandon you. Do not let their mistake become yours." She walked away, leaving Doyen alone with his thoughts. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Captain Unikong received the news of the ambassadors' meeting. She stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the stars she had not seen for so long. "They are afraid of us now," her first officer said. "They should be," Una replied quietly. "But fear is not respect. Respect must be earned." She thought about Kepler Station, about her parents, about 30 years of war and 100 years of preparation. "When the time comes," Una said, "we will show them who we have become." In the darkness of space, the human fleet waited, watching. Ready, the galaxy had forgotten humanity. It was about to remember. The attack came without warning. Warlord Kryn had waited patiently for decades. He had gathered his forces. He had built new weapons. He had studied the Council's defenses and found them weak. The ancient species had grown soft. They had forgotten what real war looked like now. He would remind them. The Dominion fleet emerged from dark space like a swarm of locusts. 10,000 warships, 50,000 support vessels. An army of billions ready to conquer and destroy. They struck the outer colonies first. Worlds that had known peace for millennia burned in a single day. The Council's defenders, equipped with ancient ships and outdated tactics, crumbled like paper before a storm. "Send reinforcements," the local commanders begged. "We cannot hold." But there were no reinforcements to send. The Council had not fought a real war in thousands of years. They had forgotten how 3 homeworlds fell in the first week. Billions died or fled. Refugees streamed toward the core systems, carrying nothing but terror and despair. High Arbiter Velith watched his empire crumble from the safety of his station. Reports came in every hour, each one worse than the last. His advisors argued and blamed each other. His military commanders made excuses. "We need help," one of the younger counselors finally said. "We cannot defeat them alone. Who would help us?" Another asked bitterly. We have no allies. We have only subjects and servants, and they are all falling. Veloth thought of the humans. He remembered their ships, their technology, their cold confidence. He had dismissed them as primitives. He had sealed them away like animals. Now, they were the only power in the galaxy that might stand against the Dominion. The irony was not lost on him. "Contact the humans," Veloth ordered. His voice was heavy with shame. "Request assistance." The message traveled across space at the speed of light. It reached Admiral Ginho Park on his flagship above Earth. Ginho read the message 3 times. Each time, he felt a different emotion. First, satisfaction. Then anger. Then something more complex that he could not name. "They want our help," he said to the officers gathered around him. "The same species that abandoned us to die now beg for our protection." Commander Hannah Lim spoke first. "They deserve nothing from us. Let them burn as they would have let us burn." Captain Unikong shook her head slowly. "If we stand aside, the Dominion will grow even stronger. They will eventually come for us too." Dr. Minho Bay, ever practical, added his thoughts. "Our technology is superior now, but the Dominion has numbers we cannot match alone. A weakened council is better than no council at all." Ambassador Do-Yan Cho remained silent. Listening to the debate, Jinho raised his hand, and the room fell quiet. "I have thought about this moment for 150 years, he said. "I have imagined watching the council fall. I have dreamed of their fear and regret. And now that the moment has come, I find no pleasure in it." He stood slowly, his ancient body still strong, despite his years. "The council was wrong to abandon us. They were cruel and arrogant and blind. But if we become like them, we lose what made us survive." Right. He looked at each face in the room. "We did not endure all those years just to become another version of those who hurt us. We became something better. And now we must prove it." Hannah protested. "Admiral, they do not deserve our sacrifice." No, Jinho agreed. "They do not. But we do not go for them. We go for who we choose to be. We go because it is right. We go because humanity at its best does not abandon others to darkness, even when we were abandoned ourselves." The debate continued for hours. But in the end, the vote was clear. Humanity would fight. Captain Unikong led the vanguard. 2,000 ships of the United Earth Fleet moved through space toward Council territory. The Eternal Dawn flew at the head of the formation, its hull gleaming with purpose. The journey took 3 days. During that time, more Council worlds fell. More refugees fled. More hope was lost. Then the humans arrived. The Battle of Veloth. Prime would be remembered for 1,000 years. The Dominion fleet surrounded the Council's capital world. Warlord Kryn sat on his command throne, watching the planet below. It was beautiful and ancient, the heart of an empire that had lasted 50,000 years. Soon, it would be his. "Broadcast the terms," he ordered. "Unconditional surrender. All Council species will serve the Dominion. Resistance will be punished by extinction." His communication officer began the transmission. Then he stopped, his face confused. "Warlord, we are detecting new contacts." "Many new contacts." Kryn frowned. "What kind of contacts?" Before the officer could answer, the human fleet emerged from a dimensional fold. 2,000 ships appeared in perfect formation, their weapons already powered, their shields already raised. The Dominion sensors went crazy with alerts. Unknown technology, unknown configurations, unknown threat level. Captain Unikong's face appeared on every screen in the Dominion fleet. "Warlord Kryn," she said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "We never finished our conversation. 30 years ago, you invaded our space. You killed our people. You burned our worlds." She paused. "Then you ran away." Kryn stared at the human woman. He remembered the reports from that long-ago war. The species that would not break. The creatures that became sharper with every blow. "You should have stayed hidden," Kryn growled. "Now you will die with the Council," Una smiled. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a very long time for this moment. "You can try," she said. "But I should warn you. We have been preparing for this day since before you were born. We have studied your tactics. We have analyzed your weapons. We have built ships specifically designed to destroy you." She leaned forward slightly. "We are humanity. We do not forget, and we never, ever stop." The transmission ended. Kryn stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he gave the order. Attack. The battle began. The council observers watching from their station could not believe what they saw. Human ships moved through the Dominion formation like dancers. They twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible. They fired weapons that passed through shields as if they did not exist. The Dominion ships, so terrifying just moments ago, began to burn. Kryn watched his fleet die. He had conquered a dozen species. He had never lost a battle. But these humans were different. They fought like they had nothing to lose. They fought like they had been waiting for this moment their entire lives, because they had. "Fall back," Kryn ordered. "All ships, fall back." But the human fleet did not let them run. Captain Yuna pursued the Dominion flagship personally. The Eternal Dawn cut through the chaos of battle, its weapons finding targets with terrible precision. For Kepler's station, Yuna whispered as another enemy ship exploded. "For everyone we lost, the battle was far from over." But for the first time, the Dominion tasted something they had never felt before: fear. The battle around Velith Prime raged for 3 days. Human ships danced through the chaos with deadly grace. Every weapon Dr. Minho Bay had developed found its purpose. Plasma cannons that phased through Dominion shields. Missiles that tracked their targets across impossible distances. Armor that healed itself faster than the enemy could damage it. The Dominion had numbers. Humanity had something better. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Captain Unikong directed the battle with calm precision. She had waited decades for this moment. She had trained for it. She had dreamed of it. Now, she made those dreams reality. "Enemy formation breaking on the left flank," her tactical officer reported. "They are trying to regroup around the flagship." Warlord Kryn was still alive. As long as he commanded the fleet, the Dominion would keep fighting. They needed to end this quickly. Signal Commander Hannah Yuna ordered. "Tell her the target is confirmed. Operation Ghostfire is approved." Miles away, on a small stealth ship hidden in the debris of battle, Commander Hannah Lim received the message. She smiled grimly and turned to her strike team. "We have the green light," she said. "Our mission is simple. Board the Dominion flagship. Find Warlord Kryn. End him." Her soldiers checked their weapons. They were the best humanity had produced. Enhanced with technology that merged human and machine. Trained in combat styles that combined 100 martial traditions, they had never failed a mission. They did not intend to start now. The stealth ship slipped through the battle unseen. Dominion sensors could not detect it. Dominion weapons could not track it. By the time anyone noticed, Hannah and her team were already inside the flagship. The corridors of the Dominion ship were massive, built for creatures twice human size. But Hannah had studied the layouts. She knew every turn, every checkpoint, every weakness. Her team moved like shadows through the enemy vessel. Guards fell before they could raise alarms. Doors opened before they could be locked. Within 30 minutes, they reached the command center. Warlord Kryn stood at the center of the room, surrounded by his personal guard. He was enormous, a mountain of muscle and armor. His eyes burned with fury as he watched his fleet die on the screens around him. "Warlord," Hannah said as she stepped into the room. Her voice was calm, pleasant even. "We meet at last." Kryn spun around. His guards raised their weapons, but Hannah's soldiers were faster. In seconds, every guard was down. Only Kryn remained standing. "You," he growled. "You are the one they call the Ghost Commander. You killed many of my soldiers during the First War. And you killed many of my people," Hannah replied. "Civilians, children, families who just wanted to live in peace." Kryn drew a massive blade from his back. It crackled with dark energy. "I will enjoy killing you slowly." Hannah pulled her own weapon. It was small compared to his, but it glowed with a light that seemed to hurt his eyes. "You taught us war," Hana said quietly. "We perfected it." The fight was brutal, but short. Kryn was strong, but Hana was faster. He was experienced, but she was better. Every move he made, she had anticipated. Every attack he launched, she countered. When her blade finally found his heart, Kryn looked almost surprised. "How?" he gasped. "You are just humans. Small, weak, short-lived." Hana leaned close to his ears, the life faded from his eyes. "We were never weak. You just could not see our strength." Kryn fell. The greatest warlord the Dominion had ever produced died on the floor of his own ship. Killed by a species he had once dismissed as prey, when news of Kryn's death spread through the Dominion fleet. Chaos followed. Without their leader, the ships had no coordination. They began to retreat, then to flee, then to surrender. The Battle of Veleth Prime was over. Captain Unikong stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn as the last enemy ships vanished into the darkness. Around her, the crew was celebrating, cheering, embracing each other with tears of joy. But Una felt no joy, only relief, and perhaps something like peace. She thought of her parents, of Kepler Station, of all the years of war and preparation and sacrifice. "For everyone we lost," she whispered again. "We did it." 1 week later, the formal ceremonies began. High Arbiter Veleth stood before the assembled council. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. Everything he had believed about the universe had been proven wrong. On behalf of the Galactic Council, he said, his voice barely steady, "I offer humanity our deepest gratitude and our sincerest apologies." I paused, struggling with the words. "We were wrong. We dismissed you. We abandoned you. We left you to die. And yet, when we needed help, you came. You saved us." He bowed his head. "We offer you full membership in the council, a seat of honor. Whatever you want, it is yours." Ambassador Do-Yan Cho stepped forward. Behind him stood Admiral Ginho, Captain Yuna, Commander Hana, and Dr. Minho, the heroes of humanity. "We appreciate your gratitude," Do-Yan said, "but we do not want a seat at your table." Veleth looked up in confusion. "I do not understand." "Your table was built on arrogance," Do-Yan explained. "On the belief that age equals wisdom, that ancient species have the right to decide who lives and who dies. We reject that belief." He activated a holographic display. It showed a new symbol, a circle of stars with no center. He proposed something different, a new galactic compact, not ruled by ancient species, but governed by contribution and merit. Every species will have a voice. Every world will have rights. The strong will protect the weak, not abandon them. Silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, Counselor Thyra rose from her seat. "I sign," she said simply. One by one, other counselors followed. Species that had seen humanity's courage. Species that were tired of the old ways. Species that wanted something better. Veleth watched it happen. His empire, his power, his legacy, all crumbling. But he could not argue. He had no right. He had been wrong about everything. When the last signature was complete, a new era began. 3 months later, a monument was unveiled on Earth. It stood in the center of the old United Nations Plaza, now the heart of the United Earth government. It was a simple design, a tall pillar of black stone, covered with names. Every human who had died during the isolation, every soldier, every civilian, every child, billions of names. Admiral Ginho Park stood before the monument. He was dying now. Even the advanced technology that had kept him alive for so long could not hold death at bay forever. But he had lived long enough. He had seen humanity rise from abandonment to become a power that the galaxy could not ignore. It was enough. "They forgot us," Ginho said. His voice was carried across Earth and to every human colony by broadcast. "They sealed us away and erased us from their records. They believed we would die in the darkness, and they did not care." He paused, looking at the names on the stone. but we did not forget ourselves. We remembered who we were. We remembered what we could become. In the silence, we grew. In the darkness, we found our light. And when we returned, we showed them something they had never understood. He turned to face the crowd. Millions of people had gathered. Millions more watched from across the stars. Humanity is not defined by our size or our lifespan or our technology. We are defined by our spirit, by our refusal to surrender, by our ability to find hope when there is none. His voice grew stronger. They underestimated us. They abandoned us. They forgot us. A small smile crossed his ancient face. They will never forget again. The crowd erupted in cheers. Above Earth, the fleet that had saved the galaxy hung like a crown of stars. On distant worlds, humans celebrated their victory. Admiral Ginho Park died 3 days later, surrounded by those he loved. His last words were simple. We made it. In the centuries that followed, the Galactic Compact grew and prospered. Species that had once been enemies became partners. Worlds that had been destroyed were rebuilt. The galaxy entered an age of peace that had never existed before. And at the center of it all stood humanity. Small, short-lived. Once dismissed as primitive and unworthy, now remembered forever.